Hello, everybody. Welcome. It's Monday. What? You see, there must have been a time in the developmental history of our species where days were not numbered or named. Think about how liberating that might be. There must have been an epoch where time was not accounted like coins in a bank stacking up or disappearing. But, you know, we can do away with such things. In our own lives, communities, and minds, if we are free to play and explore and to remember. But in this time, it is the month of June, a word meaning moon, and it's about, the month is way off because the month is maybe 4 days old, 3 or 4 days old. And before there were numbers for days and times and cycles, we sensed them in not just our bodies, but our spirits, our souls, our hearts, our relationships. We sensed them. Well, this worm seems to want to go across the street, so I'm going to do the kind of silly human thing and help it. Because if I don't, there's a fairly good chance that pedestrians will crush it. And who knows what will happen as a result of me taking it across the street, across the path. Perhaps I will destroy its timeline by doing so, but I can see pedestrians coming that will destroy it very quickly, or at least there's a very good chance they will if I don't help the creature, so to speak. Human ideas of what comprises help can be profoundly confused. Mine have been in the past a number of times. I've seen the capacity for my help to destroy the being that I thought I was helping, or my urge to relate with them from the human to the animal layers causes trouble or injury or death or poisoning or disease, who knows what. Nonetheless, I am at the stage of my own development where I would like, it feels right, to take the worm across the road. path. And I like to think that if I were in trouble, as humans are to worms, X is to humans. What is X? For some, it is very pragmatically obvious. It is the sun, the moon, the morning star, companion star, the Dipper stars, the Pleiades stars. For example, in my crude understanding of what we might think of as Blackfoot cosmology, except cosmology is the wrong word. It's not a cosmology. Cosmology is an abstract thing. And whatever the Blackfoot people were up to long ago, it's not an abstract thing unless we make abstractions about it from outside their experiential, participated traditions, as Owen Barfield might say. And we are inclined to make abstractions only about those things which have evacuated themselves from our participatory relation. And this gives us the false confidence of thinking we understand things with which we have no contact. Right? This is the power and the lethal danger. Lethal is in forgetting of abstractions and representational cognition itself. Language, letters, words, concepts, models, theorems, hypotheses, explanatory protocols, frameworks, traditions, biases, all these things. I am using them right now to call them into question. And that is my intention. Why do I want to call them into question? Surely, since I am speaking, I am ironically employing the very behaviors and traditions I am questioning. So how can both things be true? How can both things be? Which of the opposing branches should you authorize? Well, you should authorize something beyond either of them. And most of the time, much of the time, if you are presented with a stark bipolar choice, is it this or is it that? Most of the time, it's going to be different degrees of both and 9 other things. And most likely, 2 or 3 of those other things, if you synergize them, will give you a better position than, oh, it's this, or oh, it's that. One thing, mind is the death of intelligence, and it's part of the inheritance, the unfortunate and often catastrophic inheritance of us moderns and our relationships with abstraction and representational cognition. If you imagine a bird with 17 pairs of wings, each one suited to a different dimension of flight, a bird with the capacity of flying in multiple dimensions at the same time and synergizing those forms of flight to produce otherwise impossible abilities, senses, and relations, This is what it means to be human. We are this kind of bird. And I would argue, I would suggest anyway, that we are also born for modes of eros and relation and affinity with that which is upscale from us. If we call this direction up, we don't have to, but you can imagine better than, more capable, more ancient, more profound, more intelligent, more insightful, more powerful. We are born to fly with and for that which qualifies as the response to the partial syllogism I suggested earlier. As humans are to earthworms, X is to humans. In other words, I think our form of life is historically bonded with beings that are not merely physical. And some of these beings may have the capacity to physicalize, right? To sort of collapse partially from superposition into the appearance of a physical being or object, and then and yet mostly remain in superposition, not fully collapse, and thus produce non-ordinary experience in humans who are prone to try to figure out, quote unquote, what or who that is. Good luck. Because something that is partially collapsed from a superposition isn't a what or a who. What is it? Well, you're going to still have the same problem. There's no way to say what it is. What you can say is what it is not, right? What it is not is an instance of a familiar category. It is not that. They are not that. What it is not is a mostly physicalized, mostly localized in space and time entity. It's not that. And we can't say definitively much at all about what it is, right? What it is equivalent to. Mainly because our categories are broken and they are ironically self-violating, but we normally don't see this because we believe them. A child is skeptical. A precocious child is very skeptical when they encounter the categories used to delineate the identities, functions, origins, natures of phenomenal experience. The children naturally are like, you said what? Wait, what? And they don't at first believe it. They think wisely that the adults who are telling them, right, not suggesting, declaring, that the adults who are declaring identities, functions, delineations about phenomenal experiences and relationships, they think those adults are playing a game. They think they are having the children often think, and I recall this from my own childhood, they often think that the adult is, quote, having them on, unquote, in British vernacular. Surely you cannot mean, for example, that meat is the result of killing animals. That just that just can't be right. Right? The meat that we eat and the dinners, that's animals killed and chopped up. No. For one thing, why would the adults opt in to slaughtering the animals and then, all of this? And, there's even a bizarre... The children sense the strange onomatopoeia of language, the strange soundings. When my mother would say Y-O-U spells you, and I would think W-H-Y space O-H space Y-O-U, and then the next layer down obviously is the Y-O-U at the end, so you redo the thing. Y, O-H, W-H-Y space O-H space Y-O-U, and it just keeps going. And when my mother said this to me, I was like, nah, she didn't. She's toying with my mind. It can't be true that this is the game and language the adults play. How could it be thus? But the idea that letters stood for words was already introduced in alphabetics when we were taught things like A is for apple, B is for ball, C is for cow, D is for dog. All these absurd things because D isn't for dog and A isn't for apple. Right? Impossible that those things are true.